Oh, hi. Didn't see you there. Have you ever wondered, how does someone iron? Have you ever tried to use an iron, but you just couldn't figure out the controls? Have you ever tried to iron a shirt yourself, but you just couldn't get the creases on the sleeves? Well, don't worry. I'm Warrant Officer Curioso. I will be teaching you how to iron your C1 uniform shirt today. Let's get right to it. Alright, so first let's get the things that we need. First, you're going to need an ironing board, obviously to put your clothes on and to iron it with. Next, you're going to need your iron. You're going to make sure that it's filled with water so that it's ready to go. And finally, you're going to obviously need your shirt. Now, let's get started. Alright, so now that we've got everything that we need, we're going to start by making sure that everything is set up properly. First, your ironing board should be oriented such that the pointy part will be opposite from your dominant hand. So in my case, my dominant hand is right, the pointy part of the board should be pointing to my left. Okay? Next, you're going to want to make sure that your iron is sitting on the square, on the opposite end of the board, on the square edge of your board. And you're also going to want to make sure that the cord is not obstructive in any way. So you're going to want to make sure that it doesn't cross you so that you don't trip over it. So in my case, I'll be plugging it over here. Finally, make sure to follow the care instructions on your uniform, which should be located over here on this shirt. And it calls for the medium setting on your shirt. So in my case, the medium setting is just about at 4 on my iron. Okay? And after that, we can get started. Alright, so now let's get started. First, I'm going to plug in my iron. At this point in time, you should make sure never to touch the hot side of your iron. This is a no-go. Very dangerous. You can burn yourself, okay? So now, I'm going to take the hanger off of my shirt, and we're going to start with the sleeves. I always like to start with the sleeves because they're one of the most important parts that officers look for, and I want to make sure that your creases are good. Obviously, mine just came out of the wash, so my creases aren't as good right now, but after we iron it, it's going to be really good. So, take any sleeve on either side, left or right, it doesn't really matter for now. Take any sleeve. Make sure that the part where your arm goes out is going to the opposite side of your dominant hand. Again, I am right hand dominant, so I'll be using the iron from my right hand. What you're going to do is you're going to lay it flat so you can get it completely flat and avoid wrinkles. Get those wrinkles out, okay? You're going to follow the seams from the bottom and move them upwards. That's how you get your crease, okay? That's how you know where your crease should be. So it shouldn't be off like this or the other way, all right? So you're going to go from the bottom, follow it upwards, and that's where your crease should be. Next, you're going to pick up your iron and you're going to iron up and down. And mostly, you're going to want to go down from the crease and push all that extra bit of fabric out to make sure it's super flat, okay? Now what I like to do oftentimes is use the steaming button on my iron and just add a bit of steam. That helps it to get that flat, nice, crisp crease. So you're going to want to be careful. It's actually a good idea not to lift your iron during this time because you might lift the fabric, you might cause a wrinkle, right? So once you're done one side, you're going to take it and you're going to flip it and do the other side now, okay? Obviously you got to do both sides. So now that you've got your other side, take your iron, go the other way. Push the crease, push the extra bit of fabric out towards the crease, and you should be good, okay? You'll notice that you've also got some seams over here. Try not to do this too much because it might cause a wrinkle on the cuff of your sleeve, okay? And that's it. Now you've got one sleeve done. You just gotta repeat it for the other side. So I'm gonna do the same over here. start from the bottom, lay it flat, go towards the crease, okay? Easy peasy. This is the easiest part of the ironing, don't worry. Okay? Steam it a little bit, especially on the creases, because again, that's the important part, and that's the part that officers look at. Okay. And now, you're gonna flip it. Make sure not to lose that crease, especially if you have a new uniform and your creases aren't worked in yet. Make sure not to lose that crease, okay? Easy sauce. And of course you want to avoid your train tracks, which means just two lines of ironing, okay? That's why it's also very important to remember where your creases are, okay? So I'm just gonna push out all the extra fabric, steam it a little bit on the edge, on the crease. There you go. Nice. As you can see, the creases are good to go. Much nicer than before it was ironed. Alright, so now that you've got the sleeves done, the next part is we're gonna do the rest of the uniform, okay? So, the main idea of using or ironing the rest of your uniform is by going around slowly from one side to the other, okay? So you can pick any side, you can pick left or right to start with. Doesn't really matter. I'm gonna start with the right side for today. As you can see, it's just one side. You're gonna lay it on the pointy edge, okay, of your board, and you're gonna line up the seams with the edge of your board. And then from there, make it flat, okay? So now that you have it flat, try to keep it that way. Try not to move it too much from there, okay? That way you can avoid wrinkles. So now, I'm gonna take my iron and I'm gonna carefully glide my iron through every part of the shirt, okay? Get the armpit, get the pocket. Another important thing is to avoid putting your iron on top of the buttons, as it can melt the plastic buttons, okay? You don't want to do that. You want to keep your iron flat on the surface and just glide it around left and right in circles, however you like it, okay? Make sure to get in between the buttons as well. Alright, what I like to do is I like to unbutton this to make it easier for ironing on top. That'll be much better and it protects the button, okay? Now we can put it back. When you're doing this part, another thing that's important to remember is not to go over the sleeve. So you're gonna also want to iron the top part, the part where your chest is, but you're gonna want to avoid ironing where the sleeve is, okay? Stop exactly where that seam, that line is. Do not go any further because that could ruin the sleeves we just did, okay? What I'm gonna do now is I'm going to move it a little further so I can get the rest of the top part in, okay? Pretty straightforward. Just be careful, make sure you've got a good grip on your iron. You don't need to put too much pressure on it, just glide it left and right, forward and backwards, okay? Try to get the extra bits of fabric out. If there's a pocket of air, just push it outwards. You should be fine, okay? So that's the first side done. Pretty good. So now what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be working towards the other side now, okay? So now that you've done the first half of your front, you're gonna flip towards the back. Just like so, okay? Again, line up that seam. And then try to get out as much air as possible, okay? There you go. So the way I like to work from the back is I like to work in 3/3. So the first third is the first side, the second is the middle, and then the third is the other side. So right now we're on the first side where we started, okay? So first, what I like to do, again, just push the extra air out. What you're gonna notice, and of course, again, just avoid the sleeve. So what you're gonna notice is that there's a weird part of the fabric here that's kind of creased in permanently. It's sewn together like that, you cannot flatten it out. Those are called pleats, and what you're gonna do is just straight up iron over them. That is the standard, okay? So you're just gonna iron them from the other side, so you can tell that it goes kind of under. Go from the side where it's flat, and then go towards, glide your iron towards its edge, okay? So just crease that pleat. Okay, so again, try to get all that extra bit of fabric and air pockets out, and then crease the pleat. Also be careful when you use the steaming option, or when you're using the iron. Do not touch the surface too much because it will be very hot. Okay. Alright, so now I'm done this side. If you have to touch it or get any air pockets out, just touch it very lightly, glide your hand over it. Don't place your hand flatly. Okay, especially after steaming the part. So now, you're gonna go through the back to the middle, get the the air pockets out, and then you're gonna iron. This should be another easy part. See any extra wrinkles, tough wrinkles, especially down here because you tuck this part into your pants. If you see any extra wrinkles that you're having difficulty with, again, just use the steaming option. And again, I'm actually working on medium heat here as the setting, or as the care instructions call for. And it's actually not too hot, but again, just be careful for good measure, okay? Finally, I'm going to do the last third of the back. I'm going to push the air pockets out. Easy sauce. At this point, you should have already memorized it. Okay? Always get the air pockets out. The reason why is because you just want to avoid creating extra wrinkles. Okay? Go over those pleats. Push out the rest of the air. Kind of glide from the flat side to the kind of caved in part where it folds over, like so. Push the rest of the air pockets out. If you've got difficult wrinkles, just steam it. You're good to go. Okay? So now we've done the back, we're gonna go and progress to the final part, which is the other side of the front. Okay, same as before, line it up with the edge of your board, line the crease up, line this little line, or the seam, sorry. Then you're gonna push out all the air, and you're just gonna iron over. This side is super easy because it doesn't have the buttons you have to avoid, so you can just go up and down the buttonholes. Okay, and this applies to like whenever you're ironing your own clothing, right? Make sure to avoid your clothes, or sorry, not your clothes, your buttons, right? Try not to melt them. Okay. There you go. There's a little wrinkle over there, I'm gonna steam it. There we go. Nice. And then you're also going to want to do this bit so you can move it just for that purpose. Okay? Again, try to avoid moving it too much. That's why I suggest you line it up from the beginning, from the get-go, so that you don't have to adjust during your ironing. Okay? So just do this part. Again, not too much pressure, just gliding your iron around. Very simple. Okay? And there you have it. Ironed our whole shirt, and then the final part is, if you're not going to use it right away, is to store it in a hanger. Okay, That way you avoid wrinkles, doesn't get wrinkled up, and it stays up to standard. So once you're done ironing, again, make sure to store your shirt in a hanger. And it's a good idea to actually iron your uniform regularly after every use or after every wash so that it stays up to standard. And as you can see, it's totally wrinkle free, right? And of course, as soon as you're done ironing, make sure to unplug your iron. Very important, as this could be a fire hazard, okay? It can cause a fire, your iron can overheat, or it can break, okay? Just take the plug out as soon as you're done. And that's pretty much it. Alright, so now that we're done ironing our shirts, make sure to put away everything you've got, okay? Tuck away your ironing board, unplug your iron, and make sure to store it in a spot where it won't fall over and burn something. Because even after ironing and after it's turned off, the iron can still be very hot and burn something. And there you have it, guys. I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. Please let us know if you have any questions in the comment section. And make sure to let us know if you've got any ideas or suggestions for what you'd like to see next. As always, I hope that you guys are staying safe out there. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.